Well, we have none other than Mr. Ted Hollins. He is the president of the Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild. And, yes, well, he's also an author. And as Ted would say, he is a photographer extraordinaire. Yes. No. Well, Ted Hollins, welcome to Liberating Truth for tonight's edition of Showcasing and Photographing. So we're so pleased to have you on Positively Plumline tonight.
Thank you, thank you. I'm excited and elated to be here.
Well, Ted, we're glad to have you. You and I have worked together on a number of different projects, but this is our first time
Right.
under an interview.
Awesome.
Well, why don't you start by sharing with the Liberating Truth audience a little about your background? How about that?
Well, I am a Floridian, a native as they call it, indigenous to Florida. I'm actually was born in the Panhandle area near Pensacola in the little town of Flowers. I graduated from an African American high school called Tivoli High. Well, let me change that. I went to Tivoli High for 3 years, and I graduated from a white high school called Paxton High School. All right,
That must have been a while ago. They had black and white high schools.
Right. I was graduated from high school in 1969, so I'm very young. And I went on. I matriculated from what I used to call the Great University, Florida A&M University.
I thought you were going to say Syracuse University. But my daughter also graduated from FAMU.
Awesome, awesome. Somebody went to the right school in your family.
Now, Gloria can do things with your microphone. Yes, she does.
Right,
Remember, she's the queen of radio.
Right, and I majored in political science up there at FAMU, and I guess that's how I, kind of start thinking politically a little bit. So that's in a nutshell. And I worked various jobs. I've had just about every kind of job a person can name except working in a restaurant. I've sold insurance. I've sold real estate. I worked at a psychiatric hospital. And I've sold cosmetics, hair products. And
You are a man of many talents, Ted, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have you on tonight's Positively Plumline. On this program, typically we have leaders of small and medium-sized businesses, churches, ministries, nonprofits, so that they can share about their journey to leading their respective organizations. But why don't we start regarding your authoring? When you were young, did you have a favorite author?
Well, I think that is kind of like a smorgasbord for me because I like biographies, and I guess one of my first biographies was Frederick Douglass. And then I guess a lot of people read Malcolm X. And another great biography I read was by a guy named Robert Lewis, I believe, and he wrote why should white guys all have all the fun, and his name was Reginald Lewis. That was it. And anyway, it just told about the struggle that he went through to make his business, to create his business, how he slept on the couch, and how he had to scrimp for coffee, but he wound up being a billionaire. He bought a big food company in, I guess, about 1998 called Beatrice Foods.
I remember Beatrice. They had the Beatrice Whisper. I remember that.
Yeah. And now, he did die, and they have a big museum, which is to his legacy up in Baltimore, Maryland.
So let me ask you, as far as authoring, did you desire to follow in similar footsteps to anyone in particular that you had read that was an author?
Well, I guess so. I guess the writing, I did a little writing after leaving FAM. But the real inspiration came from my cousin, and she read a poem of mine, and she says, "I like your writing." And that was all it took. When she said, "I like your writing," I said, "Wow, somebody likes my writing?" And I just took off running with it, and So and through the years, I've got all kind of notes and that type of thing. And so a few years ago, I was inspired to write a novel, and so it's an adventure novel. It's called Saving Grace, and it's about the odyssey of a scientist to go about and making global solutions, ending high fuel prices, building homes for the homeless. So it goes to and stopping war, stopping gun violence. He has all these ideas about doing great things, and he finally winds up at the United Nations and expressing to the nations that they should get along rather than spend all the tons and tons of money on war. They should spend that same amount on peace, or at least half of that amount on peace. So it was an inspired novel, and I was getting a little older, so I thought it was I thought I wanted to tell my story, leave my little footprint on the world.
So how much was fact versus fiction in your book, Saving Grace?
Well, it's called historical fiction, and when something is historical fiction, you weave it into real life. So my writer, he lives here in Orlando. He goes to Daytona. He goes to Jacksonville. Goes to Chicago, and all the way back to New York. So he weaves the story is weaved into different environments and situations. He travels a lot to make it more exciting, because I think everybody likes to travel and everybody likes to see different places, that kind of thing. It was kind of inspired by James Bond. It's maybe in a sense a James Bond type novel.
But with some factual
Yeah,
elements
with a lot of factual stuff. And there's another writer. His name is Stuart Woods. He's one of those millionaire writers. He does a book every 6 months. So if you ever go to the library, you pick him up. But he writes a lot about politics and those types of things. And I think he's a very interesting writer. So as an individual who thinks about global solutions and making the world a little bit better by inspiring people to get active in their communities and actually doing the work.
All right. Well, Ted, did you self-publish or did you hire a publisher?
Well, I self-published because I didn't want my book sitting on a shelf years and years and years and waiting for somebody to publish it for me. So I self-published, and I think that is how I wanted to get my word out. Sometimes if you go through an author, you have to a big company like Doubleday or Random House, you have to send it out many times, and even a book like The Help, they had to rewrite that book 57 times. So I like to take the bull by the horns, and I didn't think I needed to do all that. I wanted my book out when I wanted it out. And
so you went to the self-publishing route. But now let me ask you, Ted, you are, as I mentioned, the president of the Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild. How and why did that organization get started?
Well, I wanted to hear about the people in my community. I was going to a Caucasian guild for many years, but I wanted to hear the stories of my people, what my Uncle Huey was doing, my Aunt Gladys, my grandmama, her stories. I wanted to hear the stories of my community and people that lived in my communities and neighborhoods. And that's one of the things that inspired me. I love to read about other cultures and people, but I really wanted to know a little bit more about my culture, and the beauty and the joy of the African American experience.
So, but by the name of your organization, Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild, that doesn't necessarily indicate a particular race or ethnicity.
No, it does not. I think we are all human. We are all human beings. And I think that's that's what we are. But the name comes from the Harlem Renaissance. Harlem was a real kind of like hotbed of African American culture back during the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So I want to bring black writing authors into that type of creativity, so that we could inspire people here in Florida and across the nation to write their stories. In a sense, I like to say, as the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word. And so we like to put those words out there to inspire, to motivate. Everybody got a story in them, and that story could help someone, or if the individual is lucky, he might become $1 million author. So.
Well, what's been the most challenging aspect of running the Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild, would you say?
Well, I think in any organization you need people, and anybody who runs an organization that don't have a lot of money, and even the president of it don't have a lot of money. Just keeping and maintaining folks to help you run that organization. This organization was a gift to me from the Creator, so it's my responsibility to make it work. So, I don't mind doing 110% of the work because I'm not necessarily doing it for me. I just say I enjoy. Some people who help me, but basically I do a lot of the work, so I don't really mind doing that. But it's hard to have a team. But I have a small team. I call on people when I need them, and so that generally works. Maybe when my budget gets a little better, I can hire some staff.
Or we can do a strategy session, one of those strategic planning sessions, and we can look at forecasting your expansion of Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild,
Right.
as well as forecasting the staffing for your organization.
I understand that you are very successful at that, and I look forward to coming under your tutelage so I can increase my output.
Well, I most organizations start as small business,
Mm-hmm.
and the founders are typically technicians in whatever their respective crafts
Mm-hmm.
are. But then, as they want to expand, if they choose to expand, it takes a team,
Mm-hmm.
typically a team of proficient, expert, dedicated resources to
Mm-hmm.
help grow that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were supposed to get together. Yeah?
Yeah, you were.
I'm putting you out there, Ted.
Right. Well, we're gonna get together, and I'm gonna come under your tutelage, and I know you can help me be a better business person. So I look forward to that one-on-one.
Yeah, and Gloria's giving you a signal too. She said she can tutor you as well. No, not business. Oh, just okay. Oh, I think. Well, but here's the thing. Gloria is a new author.
Oh, is that right?
So she may become a participant in the Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild at some point, because it is a diversity of writers, not just books,
Right.
but newsletters, articles, magazines. So it's a pretty dynamic group.
As a matter of fact, we have our next meeting is at the Village Square, 927 Goldwyn Avenue, next Monday at 6. We go from about 6 to 8:39. And our guest author can't appear. So if Gloria can come by next Monday at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Oh, okay. You got a real job. Okay.
that's what happens when you're so good at something, you don't see it as work. It just kind of naturally goes with the flow. But you'll have to invite her another time
All
so that she
right.
can
Well,
share her
yeah,
book.
yeah. What's the name of your book, Gloria?
Andy and the Secret Forest.
Sounds like a kid's book or something. Oh my God, that is great. Yeah.
For the young and the young at heart.
Yeah. Well, I think that is one of the things that we need is more writers writing for kids to inspire kids, and I think that's one reason why I found my early reading so boring. Is I always was reading about somebody else's culture and not the strong people in my community, and so I think that when people read more about what's happening in their neighborhoods, it helps kids to enjoy reading and helps people to enjoy reading.
Well, and you had an initiative going for children, or some writing for children.
Mm-hmm.
And so Gloria came to mind because, no joke, I'm not putting you on the spot, Gloria, but perhaps that's something to share in the future about participating in, yeah, I'm just giving out assignments tonight.
Right.
What is Yes,
Right.
indeed, yes, indeed. And we need to hear about your work, your literary work. That's what it's about.
Well, if you can inspire, motivate, some young person, it's well worth it. So, I applaud you for, getting your word on paper, in print.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
and
Yes.
a lot of people just leave their work in their closet or in their drawer, or in a notebook under the bed, and you got yours out and actually published it. So we'll give you a big. Wow.
So it's about is it 18 inches thick?
Right.
Just a little while to pull it off.
Awesome.
Let me ask you, Ted, what's coming up in the new year for the Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild?
Well, we're working on an anthology right now. We're inviting authors to write poetry, write short stories, write articles, and contribute them to our organization for our next anthology. This will be our second anthology. Perhaps the best way to connect with me is through Facebook. Just leave a message on Facebook, or and I think that's very convenient. I do have other ways. You can Google me, but now Facebook makes it so easy to communicate with people. Just leave me a message on Facebook, Ted Hollins, or hit me at tedhollins.com. And
you also have the Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild website as well.
Right. Yes, we have a website. We have a Facebook page too.
And it's org.org.
orwg.org. Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild.org.
All right. So now, Ted, because we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I'd like for you to at least share, because you have Ted Hollins Photography, so you're also an entrepreneur. How and why did you get started in photography?
Well, I never did find that $70,000 a year job like you. And so looking for that $70,000 a year job, it just didn't come. So
You mean 270?
okay, that's what it was.
No,
Oh,
actually
go girl.
Actually 370.
Go girl. I'm telling you, no, I didn't find that one. So I wanted to do something that made me happy. Of course, photography is basically it's a God-inspired thing too, because it had came to me about 3 times in my life, and so I kept rejecting it. And the last time I was doing some wedding and some other photography, and I got laid off on my job, and I found myself with $500 worth of photography checks in my pocket, and I'm saying, well, this might be something. So I dared myself to work in photography 30 straight days without doing anything else. And that was my challenge. And after the 30 days, I was still making a living and paying my bills and doing what made me happy. And so that's what it was all about. It made me happy. It gives me some freedom. And I guess from the spiritual aspect, I'm documenting the lives of the African American community a lot. Even though I do all types of photography, but I think that's one of the things that the Creator has out there for me to do.
All right. Oh, and when was that you launched your company?
That was 1983. Yeah, so it's actually our 32nd year. I know I don't look like them. So
you started when you were like a couple of years old.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing I'd like to share with the people is that we do have a exhibit down at City Hall where we have about 6 artists, myself, Ted Hollins, we have Ron Kelly, Thad Hargrove, Jane Turner, and Joy Hayes. We actually have a nice show in City Hall right now. It's actually in the mayor's gallery, so you're gonna have to go upstairs to see it. But it's one of the more beautiful collection of art and photography that has ever been in Orange County. So I would urge you to go down to City Hall and ask for our exhibit. It's called, it's going to be there through Black History Month, and it's called Black America Proud.
Okay, okay. And in your organization, by the way, you have partners that you work with. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, basically in any group you're going to have sponsors. And a lot of times you can't get those big guys like the Walmarts or the Nations Bank or the in Wells Fargo. Or they have a budget that they want to give you 6 months out, or you are not in their cycle. So I deal with basically community people, small businesses, some of the business in the areas, like the funeral homes, the T-shirt shops, the beauty salons. They sponsor my program mostly. So I am mostly sponsored by people who I support. I try to support people who support me. So at this time we don't have a lot of the big sponsors, but we're working on them. So basically that's how we survive right now.
You know what I was going to make mention of, because I know we were joking about salary a little while ago. When you are doing what you've been called to do, when you're using the giftings and talents that the Lord has given you, and when you're doing that work from your heart, you do need money to operate.
Right.
But I do believe, because I joked about, you said 70 and I went up to 370. But the truth of the matter is, if you've been called to do it and you're walking out, and a lot of it is about a faith walk when you're doing what you've been called to do, the money will follow. And I'm pointing that out just in case someone is listening to Positively Plumline and they're thinking about a dollar figure that they believe that occupation will bring them. And I believe, because I was in corporate America, corporate human resources for almost 30 years. But now I'm an entrepreneur and I have ministry work. But what's most important, regardless of the dollar amount that was earned in the private, because the private sector does pay different, let's just put it that way. But when you're doing what you've been called to do, it's much more rewarding and fulfilling.
Yeah, I think it's a real joy. Actually, a crazy thought of mine is I don't think the Creator give you 1 penny more than He wants you to have. Now, if He had gave me a lot of money, I probably would have been not here on earth. So
where would you have been?
I would have been in heaven, like a lot of the other people that have a lot of money, But by what the Creator gives you, that keeps you straight. So I have to do His work. So. And then you look around and you have millionaires who are afraid to invest in black radio stations, black television stations. Our television stations are perishing as far as programming in the African American community. So if you have a lot of money and cannot spend it wisely or don't invest it back in your community, what is that all about? So I think that so even though I don't make as much money as I probably think I would like to make, I think it's a blessing from God, because I can work and be more focused on what He wants me to do, getting these photographs out so I can help my community build esteem, so they can do the things in the world that they need to do.
Okay. All right, yeah, and I know we kind of said this already, but when you're doing what you're called to do, and you're doing it with passion and commitment, the money will follow. I do believe that. But Ted, we're just about out of time. But before we go, because you covered 3 areas tonight. You're an author.
Yes.
You're the president of Orlando Renaissance Writers Guild, and you are a photographer. How can people get in touch with you regarding your business entities? Is there one phone number, website?
Well, you can Google me at tedhollins.com. Just Google me at Ted Hollins. My number is 407-399-3664. We'd love to have you as a part of our guild. We'd love to photograph your events. We have a lot of great, exciting things coming up, and if we can help you out, I'd love to do that. If you can help us out, please jump on board. We have our Writers Guild banquet come up in 2016, where we give young talent an opportunity to showcase what they can do. And we have a Writer of the Year award and a Humanitarian of the Year award. So that's one of the times that I can give back, and it's actually a great time for our organization. Love to see you there.
Amen. Mr. Ted Hollins, thank you so much for joining us for tonight's edition of Liberating Truth, Positively Plumline. And we wish you much success in all that you do as president, photographer, as well as author. But before we end tonight's program, I think we have a pastor on the line, Pastor Cherie Hodge. Thank you. Wonderful. Pastor Cherie, you have something going on. You and your ministry have something going on in the community. Is that right? One more time. One. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pastor Cherie. All righty. Well, again, thank you, Ted Hollins, as well, for joining us.
Thank you, Jill-Capri Simms. Appreciate it.
All righty. Until our listening audience, until next week, be richly blessed.
Awesome, I hope I did